Thank you guys for joining us on an amazing Saturday. We are in room 104, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about an app called 10-4. So I feel like it was a little bit of destiny that we would be in room 10-4. My name is Majali Wabass, and I am the VP of Product Marketing at WEX. For those of you that maybe WEX is a new name, you might be familiar with terms like EFS or Fleet One. We have been in the trucking business for over 40 years. And so we made our business around supporting truckers, fleets, independent owner-operators, leased owner-operators, and really making sure that you guys had the tools that you needed to grow your business. In my role at WEX, I spent a lot of time with customers, talking to customers, understanding their needs. And what's really cool about that is I get to gain a ton of insights. And you may or may not have noticed, but we're in a little bit of a recession right now. And we had some really great conversations with truckers over the last few weeks around some of the things that they're doing to save money as independent owner-operators. And so we said, we got to share that. We're going to be at Matt's. We got to share that information. And so my goal today with you guys is to inspire you to keep doing what you're doing, and thank you for doing what you're doing. I fundamentally believe that trucking is the backbone of America. And even when we're in economic conditions that ebb and flow, it's the one thing that keeps ebbing and flowing along with it. So thank you for doing what you do. And I hope that you guys walk away with some really good nuggets on ways to grow your business, save in your business, so that we'll see you here again next year. So there's three things I'm going to cover with you today. We're going to talk about fuel tax strategy, fuel programs, and route planning. And what you'll see as I kind of walk through this is that if you actually add these three up together and the tips and tools that I'll give you, what it can actually allow you to do is add on one more trip a week, which depending on how much you make when you do a trip can get you up to $60,000, if not more, in a given year. And at the end of the day, that's what we want to get you to do, get more miles and get more money as a result of it. So before we get started, if you guys can pull out your smartphones and scan this QR code, there's going to be 3 questions in there. I'm curious to get kind of your thoughts on how you're thinking about your business. 3 really short questions, multiple choice. There is no wrong answer. Feel free to select more than one answer for each of the questions. It's going to help us in this presentation today. So I'll take a couple of seconds for you guys to do that. And then I'm going to check in with you. Give me a thumbs up if you feel you got your answers in there. And then we'll start to talk through them. While you're doing that, thumbs up, awesome. Anybody here from Texas? Hey, hey, I'll take it. I'm from Dallas. What other states do we have going here? Arizona, all right. California, what part? Central Valley, awesome. Oh, no. Yeah, you've got good weather. I love that. You know, in Texas, it's not hot if it ain't at least 100. It's just how we roll. It's not hot if you're not melting as you walk down the sidewalk. That's right. Oh, that is hot. Yeah, yeah, you got me at 118. Yeah. Hey, got any more thumbs up? Armando, you doing good? Kelly, thank you. Brian, awesome. So that's Denise, thank you. And Denise's man, thank you. I didn't catch the names on this side. I'm going to have to catch those because then my dad was a preacher. So I'm going to call y'all out sometimes, just like how preachers do. It's hard for me not to. I live in church my whole life. All right, thank you guys for taking a minute to do that. All right, so the first question you should have seen is what's the main thing you look at when picking a fuel stop? I'm going to ask my amazing colleague, Ali, if you can tell me, where did we land on some of these? Cheapest price per gallon. 6, okay, awesome. So number 1 for you guys was cheapest price per gallon. That's great, because we're going to talk about that in a second. What about brand? Where did brand land? 4, okay. Fuel tax in the state? Whatever is closest, okay. Okay, awesome, all right. So let's talk about that. Fuel tax, that was, I believe, the 3rd choice for you guys, and I'm here to tell you it needs to be number 1, especially given the economy right now. How many of you guys, by show of hand, understand fuel taxes and why this thing is important? And it's okay if you don't, because it took me a while to wrap my brain around it. In all fairness, I got my buddy Joe here. Joe has 23 years in the trucking industry. He's very familiar with a brand called TCH, which you guys might be familiar with as well. So I've got him to also kind of give you a little bit more depth and insight, but here's the gist of taxes. When it comes to fuel and you look at the price per gallon, that number actually includes a tax with it. And most people don't know it. So if you see $3.25 at the pump, there's some level of tax. That tax number varies by state. So in our lovely state of California, as this young lady pointed out, not only has it gotten hotter over the years, the tax on fuel is, I think, the highest in the country, if I'm not mistaken. It's $1.01 for Q1 in California, which means if you paid $3.25 at the pump in California, $1.01 of that $3.25 was actually taxed for California. Now, here's why that's important. The way those taxes work, kind of similar if you think about taxes on a paycheck that you used to get back in the day, you have to pay taxes based on where you drive the most miles. So some people, if you look at all the state tax laws when it comes to fuel specifically, some people will fuel up in places like Georgia. The price of gas is low and the taxes are really low. And they'll think, oh, I'm gonna save money by filling up my tank here and then hauling it to somewhere like a Philadelphia, or God forbid you're driving from Georgia to California, which I've made that trek before, by the way. When you do that, what's gonna happen is the bulk of your miles are going to occur in places where the taxes are higher. Well, you have to pay your taxes not based on where you fueled up, but where you drive. So if you spend a boatload of your time in California, you gotta pay taxes like you live in California. Another example might be, I don't know if you guys are familiar with like basketball or football. The players, they actually pay taxes on the salary they make based on the state they play the game in. So it's not where you live, it's based on where you play. And if those taxes are really high where you play, then you gotta start thinking smarter about how you're spending your dollars and your money. So there's something called IFTA. IFTA, you can actually Google IFTA, but essentially IFTA is kind of like the IRS, but for fuel taxes. It's probably the simplest way to put it. They change how much they charge per gallon per state every quarter. So typically, like a very smart strategy would be to actually go to the IFTA website, look at what their taxes are in the states where you travel the most. And you'll want to think about making sure that you plan your trips not based on the price per gallon, but based on the taxes per gallon that you're going to have to pay. All right, so I told you we talk a lot to customers. This is one particular customer story that was sharing with us. She started out in the trucking space, actually being a leased owner-operator. And the way that her company worked with where she was leased onto, she had to track how much she was paying in the IFTA tax rates and kind of turn something in at the end of the quarter, and then depending on how that shook out with what they paid her, she may or may not owe money. And she got to thinking one day, like, I don't know if that's the right strategy. It seems like I'm always owing money to you guys. So she went out on her own and got her own IFTA license, which you can do. And she said, I'll pay my own taxes, and we'll see how we get. Now, the very first year that she did that, she made a lot of trips between Georgia and Florida. The bulk of her miles that she drove were in, or sorry, not Georgia and Florida, Georgia and Philadelphia. The bulk of the miles that she drove were in the Philadelphia area, where the IFTA tax rate is really, really high. Specifically in comparison to Georgia, like almost 2 to 3x higher at the time that she was doing it. But she kept fueling up in Georgia because it was so much cheaper. And then she got to the end of the year and she owed IFTA $800 worth of taxes. And she was like, what did I do wrong? And that's when she figured out, like, oh, that's the problem. She made that shift. She prides herself now and making sure that even though Philadelphia is a little bit more expensive, it's actually cheaper in the long run for her to fill up in Philadelphia and make that trek back down to Georgia. And more often than not, IFTA will either owe her money or she'll break even. So she makes it a point to fuel in high tax states on purpose. And I love this quote, which is, it's not about paying more, it's about paying smart. So again, at the beginning, we kind of talked about like, oh, we check the fuel prices first. I would tell you check the fuel prices, but then also check the IFTA rates as well. So 3 things that you'll want to think about when you think about what should my fuel tax strategy be. First of all, make sure you know the fuel tax rates in the main states in which you're driving. Again, you can go to the IFTA website. They have it in a spreadsheet. They have a bunch of different formats for it. You can download it. And when you download it, what you'll want to do is write down the top 3 states, or really I should say it this way, write down the top 6 states where you drive the most, and then separate those out by which ones are high tax states and which ones are low tax states. And make sure as much as possible you're trying to kind of move your miles to be in the places where the taxes are a little bit higher so you don't end up owing. The other thing that you'll want to do is also then, once you've done that, then you'll want to think about your fuel stops. So don't just look at price. Again, remember our friend that was going from Georgia to Florida. Don't just look at price. I keep saying Florida. I don't know why that's in my head. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I need to go to somebody's beach. I think that's what needs to happen. Georgia to Philadelphia. You'll want to think about the price with respect to the tax. So that's when you'll start thinking about your fuel stops. Make sure that those match your route. And then there's a lot of apps out there that can help you figure out the best price based on where you're going to, right? So it's cool to look at price per gallon, but it's actually the 3rd thing you should look at. Start with those tax rates first, map your route, and then go there. Now, selfishly, like I said, there's a bunch of apps that do it. I don't work for those companies. So I am going to tell you to use our app to do it. Our app is called 10-4 by WEX. And if you haven't heard of 10-4, here's a couple of fun facts that you should know. Number 1, 10-4 offers only truck-friendly locations. So if you see a fuel station in our app, it is a fuel station that you can feel comfortable stopping in with your truck. They will have space for your truck to fuel. The other thing that we do is you guys may have heard of something called card skimming. If you haven't heard of it, it's essentially people that kind of will sit by the fuel stations, pay attention. They can actually skim your credit card number when you go to swipe it at the pump, and they can basically steal money from you, is kind of the gist of it. One of the ways to get around it that we've put in our app is instead of you swiping your card, you load your card into the app, but when you go to fuel, you'll actually generate a fuel code, and I'll show you how to do that in a second, and you take that code in, and that's how you pay for your fuel. And so there is no card skimming because you never actually put in a credit card number. We do have one of the largest fuel networks. Like I mentioned at the beginning, WEX has been in this business for 40 plus years. And so providers like TCH used to be a part of Flying J, EFS, Fleet One. Those are all really popular brand names you might be familiar with in the tax card or fuel trucking space. Those brands are now all a part of WEX. So we know how this works. We have a lot of really great relationships. When you purchase fuel through our app, we lock in that price per gallon for 12 hours. If the price drops below that number, you maintain that rate. If the price goes above, it doesn't matter. You locked in a lower rate. That's the rate that you'll pay. The app is completely free to use. Completely free. There's no catches. There's no gotchas. WEX also has their own bank. So sometimes if you pay with like a Visa card or an American Express or a MasterCard, there's also kind of that extra fee on top for using a credit card. You don't have that with WEX because we have our own banks, which means we control our own fees, so you don't have to pay those fees. You can bring whatever credit card payment that you want, and we don't do credit checks. So a couple of things to point out. How do you get this app? Number 1, just download it. Get the app, go into your app store on your smartphone, look for 10-4 by WEX. I'm gonna see if this, there we go, there's my video. Once you get in there, let's see if it's gonna load for me. Hold on. Okay, I'm gonna need your help because I lost my slides. Thank you. I appreciate you. These people have been looking out for me in the back. Shout out. Shout out to Aaron and Carolyn. All right, let me try it one more time. All right, I'm not sure it's going to play, but it's all good. All right, so the second thing is you'll find your deal. So when you get into the app, you pull it up, it's going to look like Google Maps. And then what you'll see up there is essentially you can just scroll and look for the prices. Underneath the prices will tell you how much you're saving per gallon. Put a pin in that, because I'm going to come back to it. It's another saving strategy for you to think about. When you select the place that you want, you click on it. And then you're going to say that you want to get your fuel code, and then it's going to pop up a code for you. And when you arrive at that pump, anywhere in the next 12 hours from the time you click on that thing, you walk in, you give the station attendant that number, and that's how you pay for your fuel. All right, second question was, what's your biggest frustration with fuel programs? Allie, my amazing colleague, can you tell me where we landed on numbers there? Not sure if I'm actually saving money, some truck stops don't accept them, takes too long at the register, or I don't use the fuel program. What was the number one answer? Actually saving money. Awesome, great, so we're gonna talk about that. So fuel discounts. Like I showed you guys in our app, there's places where you can save 50 cents a gallon. For a little bit of context, just because we were showing up at Matt's this week, we actually are running special discounts up to 50 cents off per gallon in roughly about a 100-mile radius from where we are right now, so fuel up before you head out. Not all fuel discounts are worth it, though. Some of the things that you'll want to think about is when you hear about fuel programs, and there's all kinds, there's just all kinds, they'll often talk a lot about, oh, this program can save you thousands, and they can, but you got to make sure that you use them right, and you want to make sure that you don't waste time chasing tiny discounts, and I'll talk about that in a second. So I told you we talk a lot about to customers, and here's what one of our customers had to say. Do not sit at a fuel stop for 30 minutes. When you think about how much you get paid to do what you do, 30 minutes actually adds up, particularly if you're doing that at every single fuel stop you're making on your route. If your fuel stop and your savings there is 10 cents or less, general rule of thumb, unless you need to fuel up, probably makes sense to just keep going. Because when you start thinking about how much you're essentially getting paid by the hour and how much time you just wasted sitting at a fuel pump, that break even, it's not worth it. You'll actually lose money if the discount that you're looking for is 10 cents or less. So try to aim for as much as possible discounts that give you at least 10 cents or more to make it worth your time. So anything under 10 cents, keep rolling. Like I just showed you guys in the 10-4 app, we will highlight for you what that discount is so you'll know whether or not it's worth it. One particular customer started using our app last year. We launched it for the first time last year, and she actually tracked it over time. And what she calculated, looking at what she historically had paid for fuel, and based on the discounts she was able to save through our app, she actually saved a little over $6,100. And she had one truck and then like a part-time truck. So that's $6,100 is a decent chunk of money to put in your pocket. There are other apps she did mention. There's no-fluff and a couple other apps that she's used, and she compared throughout the entire year. And for her, our discounts were still way better than what she was able to see in some of the other apps. So the big thing that you'll want to think about is if you're not sure if you're saving, I'm going to send you away with a little bit of homework. For the next 30 days, and essentially April starts in like a day or two, so you can start now. For the next 30 days, I would encourage you to think about how much time you're spending at your pumps. Jot it down even, to be real honest, because you'll be surprised where you're wasting time. I don't know how many people in this room are moms. I'm a mom, I have 4 kids. I'm amazed at how much time sometimes I waste, mostly just yelling at my kids and telling them, let's go, let's get out of the house. So sometimes you're not conscious of certain behaviors, which is why I'm bringing it up. So I would encourage you to think about writing it down and literally seeing how much time you're spending at that stop, and if that's really worth your time based on the discount that you're getting. And then remember, if it's 10 cents or less, probably makes sense to keep rolling. And then make sure that you're looking at real-time prices while you're going through this. So again, apps like 10-4 by WEX will help you do it. We will show you in real time how much you're saving on your price per gallon. All right, last poll was, where do you feel like you waste the most time? Allie, what was our number one answer? Ah. Okay, all right, sitting at docks. So you guys are really gonna love this tip. So remember, we talked about time is money at the end of the day. And where you can find opportunities to save time is where you can also find a way to fit in another turn. So one of the things you want to think about is if you're wasting time at stops, you are burning fuel and you are losing your loads. When you wait till the last minute to fuel, or if you have a maintenance issue, that's going to kill your profit. So you want to be very conscious about that. But if you're conscious about it, then you can fit in 1 extra load a week. And that can be the difference between scraping by for you and making real money. So here's another customer story about how they handle that. They're really big on making sure that you're not wasting time. And so one of the things that they try to do very efficiently is pre-plan the routes. And they also do this really fun exercise where they use Google Satellite. Have you guys ever used Google Satellite before? Okay, so Google Maps has a version in it when you open up Google Maps where you click it and you say satellite. And what that is it literally gives you a visual of the exact dock that you're going to. So you'll be able to see, like a lot of people will get gummed up because they're spending 15 minutes just rolling around the dock trying to figure out where to drop something off, waiting on somebody to pick something up. Then you've messed around, now you gotta wait all night and try to drop it off again in the morning. My brother-in-law drives a truck, he's done the same thing, he's figured it out now. But when he started, that would happen. He'd get there, couldn't find the spot, and then unfortunately ended up having to spend the night to be able to drop it off in the morning. If you use the satellite version of Google Maps, again, it's completely free. It will show you what that dock looks like so you can see exactly where you need to go. And then essentially what you'll want to do is map your trip so you get there in enough time so you can offload that load that day. So the biggest lesson learned here is make sure that you plan your fuel stops before your trip even starts. I'm curious to know by show of hands, how many of y'all do that now? Usually at least a day out. Yeah, awesome, thank you. That is the best way to do it. What it helps you account for is things like weather, if there's construction along the way, everything. You'd be surprised how many of those things will really get you, and they don't need to get you if you can plan ahead. So you want to plan your whole trip out at least a day before you have to take it. Plan your fuel stops as well. Remember we talked about fuel tax. So you'll want to take that into account when you're planning those fuel stops, looking at where most of your miles are going to be and making sure you're adjusting accordingly. You'll also want to make sure that you have on hand to know where your backup maintenance shops are. We talked to one customer, everything's going good, he doesn't have any problems, and all of a sudden, got a couple of tires to blow out. Now, what was really great for him is he was able to actually be back on the road in under an hour, because he already knew the state where he was, he knew the maintenance shops in that area, called up his buddy and said, I need some help. They got him in and back on the road as quickly as he needed to be. His goal was actually to make it all the way back home so he could get in another turn. And he was still able to do that. So you'll want to make sure that you know where your backup maintenance shops are. That's all a part of planning out that route. And then some of the tech that can also help you to make sure you don't waste time is an ELD. If you have one, it will take into account traffic delays. You'll want to back that in there. Again, Google Maps Satellite, like I told you, you can see the dock setup. And then 10-4 by WEX will help you figure out what are the best and the cheapest fuel stops along your route. If you can unload the same day, spend less time at a dock and less time fueling along your whole route, you can fit in an extra turn a week. And again, depending on how much you get paid for the turns that you're running, that can be at least $60,000 more in your pocket than what you were already planning. So just to reiterate, every mile, every minute, and every dollar matters. Make sure you're paying attention and planning your fuel tax strategy. Make sure you're investing in good fuel programs to help you save along the way. And make sure you're planning your routes at least a day in advance. And using technology to make sure, because again, 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, another 15 minutes, that can all add up to a whole day in a given week, which means you can get back home, get in an extra turn if you want to, or you can go to Florida and sit on the beach, which apparently is where my brain is today. But you can do all of those things with that extra time that you saved. Would love for you guys to just take a minute. That is the end of our presentation. Scan this QR code for me. Give us a little bit of feedback. This is our first time doing it. This is my first time doing it, so be kind. No, don't be kind. I love truckers for all of your transparency. So if I was awful today, then feel free to say that. But you can't talk about my shoes. That's my only caveat. You can't talk about my shoes. Thank you. All right, I'd love to open up the floor to see what questions you guys have. We've got about another 15 minutes. I'd like to take a second to introduce a couple of my colleagues in the room. Allie, I shared with you guys before. Allie is in the marketing space with me. Again, we love to get a ton of feedback from our customers as well. And then I mentioned earlier, Joe Jesperson, if you can stand up and wave your hand for our amazing crew that's here today. Joe, like I mentioned before, is 23 years in the industry, and so he knows a lot about fuel tax strategy, I tried to simplify it as best I could, but it can go deep and it can get pretty gnarly as a topic. But Joe knows all the ins and outs and can really help you think about how you can save a lot of money in your business by doing that. So he's here to answer questions as well if you guys want to go a little deep there, or also open to talk about whatever you want to talk about today. I appreciate y'all for diligently filling out the survey. Armando, I'm going to pick on you and Kelly. These were my first buddies I got to meet when they first came in. Any questions? By the way, curious to hear if you can shout it out. How many years have you been in business? 4 years. Awesome. Congratulations. My lady from California. How many years have you been in business? Congratulations. That's awesome. I was just going to say, I was holding off on you guys. So the very first crew that I got a chance to meet this afternoon is Armando and Kelly. They've been in it for less than a year. And I told them, congratulations. I fundamentally believe that trucking is the backbone of America. And I love that you guys are taking that very brave step. It's brave to step out and start your own business. And I love that they're doing that. And I'm wishing them the best of luck. And for those of y'all that are in this room that have been in it longer than 9 months, show them some love. I bet they could probably use just a lot of tips and suggestions on what to do there. Awesome. Yeah. Any questions that you guys have for me or Allie or for Joe? Yeah. So, and I'm going to look for Joe, make sure I say this right. Or you want to answer? I'd love for you to answer it too. Okay. And Joe, just for 1 second, really quick, I'm going to, just to repeat it in case you guys didn't hear it, what the question she asked was, if I have an EFS card and it shows a different discount, because there's an app that goes with the EFS card. If I have an EFS card and it shows a different discount, essentially how does that correlate with the discount that shows in the 10-4 app? Yeah.
So essentially we have two different pricing structures in different programs, negotiated discounts. There's going to be differentiation between what you see in 10-4 and what you see on your EFS card. I mean, to be frank, if I'm an owner-operator, I'm trying to get the best price on fuel, I might do a strategy where I'm looking at both and just using what platform gives me the best discounts. But as we build out the network, you'll find that a lot of the locations that we have, probably what you're seeing today is our edge network. We're building our 10-4 product around that network and working with those same merchants. So discounts might have some differentiation there, but you can always just use what gives you the best discount.
Yeah, so they're two separate things. So EFS was built around a particular network of like fuel station providers, negotiated for a whole different reason. And then 10-4 was specifically defined just for independent owner operators. And the goal was to try to provide independent owner operators with the same types of fuel discounts and benefits that they would get if they were with like a larger corporation or a fleet. And so, but that being said, they are different. So if you have both, again, 10-4 app is completely free. I would encourage you look at both. Look at EFS, see what they're offering you. Look at the 10-4 app. If one of them gives you a better deal, go with the better deal. It all comes back to WEX. I'm not mad at it either way. But I'm just telling you, if you got both of them, go with the better deal. But you cannot put your EFS card in the 10-4 app. Okay, yeah.
I'll just piggyback on that, add a little bit of context. EFS supplies tens of dozens of fuel card programs to the entire industry, from factoring companies, financing companies, resellers, different fuel programs. Do you have a direct EFS fuel card, Or are you on some type of program or a financing company?
The company we're leased onto
Got it.
gave us the EFS card.
There you go. Exactly. So that company has likely struck some discounts, as you've
Yep.
seen, right? But to her point, it doesn't hurt, especially if it's your money and your fuel,
Right.
to compare. Hey, my lease company offers me these discounts. Shoot, the 10-4 app are offering me higher discounts, right?
Right.
There is no conflict there.
Right.
They are separate platforms though, so they wouldn't tie to your carrier ID or to your card number.
Right. So
Unfortunately.
I just used like my business credit card in the 10-4 app.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And there is no issue with running them simultaneously. Yeah. Yep.
Yep. Great question. Thank you. Other questions? Yes.
Out of Dallas, Georgia.
I was like, you had me for a second. I was like, I thought you said you weren't from Texas. I've been to Dallas, Georgia, though, so thank you for that, too.
Yes. So you guys said that there's no fee or anything associated with that. There's no card or, I guess you could say, per transaction fee or anything like that associated
Correct.
with it? All right. And then the second question that I have is, so I've used similar programs like this before, and what I did experience is same or similar process, right? And then when you go in and pay, I don't know whether you say you want $150 worth of fuel or whatever, or you pay for it, but it charges you like $500 and something for that one transaction, and then it refunds you back a day or two later. Does that happen with you guys' program as well?
Yeah, it would be similar. So when you go to select the quantity of the gallon quantity, it's going to place a pre-authorization on your form of payment, debit or credit card, and that'll just be a multiplier of, hey, the fuel cost multiplied by how many gallons you think you might need, say 150, you only dispense 138, right? So there's a delta there. Then we'll push through the settled transaction to your bank or credit card, and that process could take a day. It depends on how often your credit card is refreshing. Do you have some experience on that? Yeah, that's it.
Now, what I will tell you is in the app, you'll have the option to pick roughly how much you want to fuel. I was trying to get back to the image, and I'm not doing a good job of it. But you select it. It will show you an estimate of the amount that's going to hit your card. So you can also kind of be prepared for that. But that will be the max amount that will ever hit your card. And then to your point, if it ends up being less, then you'll get that refunded back to you. But you'll see before you even select that button and say, I want to do this, it will tell you, here's how much is going to hit your card. Thank you.
Okay, just to clarify as well, so that there's no confusion as to what I'm definitely stating. So I did this once with one other similar program, right? And it kind of shunned me away from using it again. It was a great discount, but the same thing, I told them, so I operate box truck. I know my average fill up. I have like a 60-gallon tank, 65-gallon tank or something like that. And I'm able to put about 50 gallons in it when I'm filling it up. I know that's going to be $135 to $145. So I can tell them the gallons or the amount, right? However, with that card or with that program that I used previously, when I took the code in there and told them how many gallons I wanted, when I got back to the truck and I looked at my bank account, right, that I had linked with it, it was like $500. And I know that, again, my fill up is like $135 and $150 at the max. So that kind of deterred me from wanting to use it at my next stop, because I don't know if another $500 is going to hit my account again. And if I fill up, twice in one day, that could be detrimental
That's right.
So I just
Yeah,
didn't-
because now it's like $1,000 hold on a card that, you know, should only be about 200, 250 bucks.
In your instance, if you just want $150 worth of fuel, we only do it by gallon quantity, so you do the math there, but if that's all you want, that's all we're gonna pre-op.
That's right. Yes, so you get pre-auth for what you select. So in your case, like you said, 50 gallons, or like Ellie was sharing with you, you can also customize. The minimum is 50 gallons though, but you can customize anything above that. So you would put in there, I thought I had a screenshot, apologies, it turns out I don't, but if you look at that third screen where it says get fuel code, right before there it asks you, hey, how many gallons are you thinking? It'll give you a couple of pre-prompts. You can select those, and then there's one where it says enter a custom amount. And you can say, I want to do 60 gallons, right? It will do that, and then it will calculate what the cost will be based on the rate that you're looking at. And then when you click on that and say, yep, now I want my fuel code, what gets authorized is just that amount. So we're going to tell you what it is, and then that's what gets authorized. So when you show up and you show them the code, you will only see that number that you authorized show up on your card. And then if it's lower, and this is what I was saying earlier, like let's say you locked in, you know, 2.699 for your gas, you get there and it turns out that the rate actually dropped to like 2.4 by the time you got there, you will see a refund from us because we'll say, well, it actually dropped. You authorized us for the 2.699. We actually saw that it dropped, so we're going to give this back to you. But you won't see us do like that standard pre-auth of like the $500 that you're talking about. Just, you won't see, we don't do that.
Yeah, and I didn't even look to see what that was, just a one-time thing for your initial use or anything. It just deterred me from that
Yeah.
whole thing. I was just like,
Yeah, it would deter me too. It's a pretty big pre-auth.
this is pretty good though, if
Yeah.
that's the case. And there's no card. It's just, this is all app-based, correct?
Correct. That's exactly it. So you put whatever card payment you want to put in it, like the lady in the back said she'd probably do her business card. So whatever card you put in there is the card that we take. But then you got to give me a truck, yeah, to go with that. 'Cause that's my tagline. You're not going to give it to me? All right. She was like, no, but I will ask you this question. Feel free. Okay, awesome. Did you have a question?
I did have a question, but then in the fine print, my eyes got good. I didn't need my glasses. I wanted to know how long was your expiration on the code?
Yeah,
I see
12
it
hours.
says 12 hours.
Yep, from the time you lock it in. You can go back and cancel if for some reason you change and your route changes, but yeah. Awesome. Yes. Yes, that's exactly. If you guys heard what she said, you can pick the stop, lock in the price, and when you get there, use the code. That's exactly it. So whatever you lock in here, that is your rate, whether it goes up or down for the next 12 hours. But if it goes down, we will give you back a refund for the difference. Yep. Yeah. So her question was, will it automatically give you a refund or will you have to monitor the discount?
It will, when the transaction process, when you actually go use that code and it's a lower amount, that lower amount is going to process through. So it'll automatically give you the lower amount and then clear on your credit card or debit card. Yep.
Yeah. Because remember, when you lock that in, you're pre-authing that amount, and that's why we were saying give it back to you, if you will. It's essentially we'll just charge you what the lower rate was. Yeah. Good questions. I hope that's I don't know, I was going to say, I hope that's a Dr. Pepper, but you have Pepsi. That's all right. It's all right. Any other questions for us? Awesome. Do you guys know, Joe, do you guys know if we still have hats?
I believe so, Adam.
Are there still?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we still have some? Yep. Okay. So I would love to extend an invitation to you guys. I don't have my hat on right now, but I got it because I love a good trucker hat. I would love for each one of you guys to stop by our booth and get a trucker hat. Just tell them that you attended our presentation, and you can customize it. Our tagline for this show is "Truck Yes." I was hoping to get y'all to say it with me. Y'all kind of left me hanging. It's all good. But I would love for you guys to at least have that as a take-home and hopefully a reminder of how to save money so that with every mile you spend, you're also making money with that mile. And would love to see you guys all here again next year because that means that your business is continuing to thrive and grow, and I want to see you guys thrive and grow. Thank you for your time today.